What's up, everybody that is either watching this on the YouTube channel for Voice Actor Haven or is in our lovely Discord channel in the server for Voice Actor Haven. Today, our second event that we've held in the server, I'm going to be talking about where to find voice acting audition opportunities. Mainly for beginners, but I feel like that this could apply to a lot of other people. I've curated this little beautiful doc, I'd say, not doc, presentation slide that contains a bunch of information. If you guys on the YouTube want access to this Google presentation slide, be sure to join the Discord server. The link should be in our link tree, in our bio, wherever you see this. So with that being said, let's begin. Okay, where to find audition opportunities, or I can't even read. Where to find voice acting audition opportunities. 101. Okay, we gotta cover the basics before we get into some of the unique stuff. Casting Call Club. Now, before I start reading into this, Casting Call Club is a source that is probably the most recommended site that you would ever get when it comes to asking this question: where can I find voice acting auditions? But not a lot of people know specifically what is Casting Call Club outside of the fact that it's like something that exists for voiceover stuff. So Casting Call Club is a site that contains a range of paid and unpaid voiceover opportunities. You can find a lot more smaller indie types of work, and on occasion, you'd find work that is larger in scale in terms of production. So in terms of the scaling of the projects that are on Casting Call Club, it varies a lot. You have projects that are ran by folks that are kind of just starting out when it comes to projects, and you have other projects that are more larger in scale in terms of production. That kind of more meaning they have a full team of people, they have probably a lot more budget to work with, and a lot more things that aren't seen more commonly with other folks that are just starting out. But the variety of projects go into multiple different things. You can find animation projects on there, indie animation, indie video games. I have found some commercial stuff on there, very minimal, YouTube narration stuff on there. So there's a variety of work, I feel, that you can find on the platform itself. The site itself is one of the most common sources of audition opportunities out there. Being free to use while also having a semi-consistent stream of new auditions being uploaded almost every single day. So there's never a day where I go on Casting Call Club and I can't find something to audition for. There are some times where maybe like through a week or through 2 weeks, maybe a month, where there's not that much that is new. But given that it is kind of the definitive place to upload auditions and stuff, usually there's a wide array of opportunities that are getting uploaded almost every single week. How I treat Casting Call Club kind of as a voice actor is it's not something that I use now on the daily. It used to be something I used on the daily, but I kind of give it like 3 days to simmer. Like I look on Casting Call Club, I scroll to find all the auditions that I'm actually good for. I audition for it, boom, I knock it out. And then I kind of wait a little bit for it to kind of refresh itself almost, for new projects to be uploaded and other stuff to be showcased. Despite common belief, the site itself isn't just a voice-over audition site, with it also presenting audition opportunities for animators, artists, and other creative careers. Now, that's something that you can probably put together through just being on the site for Casting Call Club. But although voiceover opportunities make up the, I would say, bulk of the auditions that you can find on Casting Call Club, there are also other auditions for other creative careers that is kind of on the platform. So it's not solely in 100% strictly a voiceover audition site. So that's a good thing to know. The link for Casting Call Club will be put in the presentation, which if you are on YouTube, you can access just by joining the Discord server, looking in our general resource channel, and that goes the same for everybody else watching and listening in our Discord server, in our event. So, with that said, let's move on. Social media. Okay, social media, before I go into this, is, I would say, comes kind of like a semi-common, not really common way of finding opportunities. It just depends on how much social media you are actively looking for when it comes to audition opportunities. If you're not just looking on one specific social media site, and also how in depth you are looking for auditions for particular social medias. One social media that is, I would say, a little bit more common is voice acting Discord servers on the social media site known as Discord, if you don't know what that is. Voice acting relating Discord servers are a great way to find audition opportunities. Commonly, Discord servers of this genre usually have a dedicated category in their server purely dedicated to casting calls. In our Discord server, our dedicated category is literally called casting calls. It's kind of almost universal for every other Discord server, so you usually be able to find auditions through that category in any Discord server that you end up joining. In which members of the community can share casting calls they found online, or project owners can share their own casting calls in the channels themselves. Now, for this server particularly, I'm kind of semi-consistent in adding new casting calls that I found amidst different social medias in the Discord, either it being paid or it being unpaid. And any of the auditions that I do that are public, not private because I can't share those, but any auditions that I do that are public casting calls, I will be putting in those channels as well, just for you guys to be able to access as well. But some great voice acting Discord server recommendations. Voice Acting Club, known as the VAC, I'd say is the most prominent and almost definitive voice acting Discord server to be a part of. And their channel, they have, similarly to ours, paid casting calls, unpaid casting calls, fan casting calls in this Discord server that is constantly being updated, and new people are adding stuff. And it's a really cool server to be a part of. VA Treehouse, also similarly to our server, has their own casting call category where members of the server upload casting calls that they found online, or have either just put out their own casting call clubs that they have curated by being a project owner in the server as well. And here, Voice Actor Haven, a small little self-promo, I'd say. But we also kind of share a little bit of the casting calls and whatnot throughout our server. And I feel like that any other voice acting Discord server that I've yet to mention in here, particularly just due to spacing on the presentation, would also have a casting call channel or category where you can also find casting calls that are in the server as well. If you kind of want to get a full scope of that, I personally have joined as many voice acting Discord servers as possible outside of just these three, just to kind of get a more wider scale of trying to actually find audition opportunities. And I feel like that's good to consider. But with that being said, we're moving on to Discord again, but Discord game dev servers. There are many game developer community Discord servers that offer good amount of voice actor auditions directly from developers that are in need of talent. Usually they have a dedicated project category channel in their server for devs to post their auditions or recruitment requests. The game dev servers I found through recommendations for other folks that are also in game dev servers, the public ones, the bigger ones. And in these servers, they do have categories where devs can ask for talent. Some good Discord server recommendations, servers that I'm also in, Dev Talk, Narrative Game Dev, and Game Dev League. Those two servers are really good in terms of just finding casting calls. But please remember, before joining these servers, do not reach out to the game devs that are in these servers directly. Please just use the dedicated categories in the server to find already posted auditions. And please respect the environment of these servers. Now, the reason why I highlight that is because I know, and I was also like this when I started as a voice actor, starting my journey, becoming a beginner, I was very, very ambitious. So I would want to find any way to be able to find more opportunities and casting call club, and casting calls and whatever it may be. So I would take that next step in reaching out to people and seeing what's going on here, what's going on there. You don't need to do that. Specifically in these environments that are, not voice acting specifically related. Don't come in there and start swinging around voice acting stuff and just be really, really abrasive about trying to find more and more casting calls and auditions. Just if that is what the purpose of you joining these servers is for, just look at the categories that they have in their channels and you can be able to find the casting calls that are there. Just respect these servers, respect the curation of these servers, and respect their environment. That is something that I would really put pressure on. But with that said, I'm going to be moving on. Twitter, known as X, boo. Also similar information for Bluesky. Twitter is a really good and I would say common source to find audition opportunities. There are 3, I'd say, common ways about going about finding them on Twitter or for Bluesky. One, in the way that I do it, curating your FYP, your For You page, to recommend you voice acting auditions. You can do this by consistently interacting with posts, such as liking, sharing, reposting, or commenting on these audition posts on the platform. So whenever I'm on Twitter, my feed and the posts that they are recommending me, that is my For You page, essentially. The page that they automatically send me to on the platform, that is the For You page, if you guys don't know that. And kind of interacting with voice acting related posts, these auditions, not like a robot, right? Don't just put a fire emoji under every audition that you see just so you can be able to curate your FYP, but just casually doing it, casually just interacting with more voice acting stuff, can curate your page on these platforms and even outside of Twitter and even outside of Bluesky to give you more voice acting related content. And it's kind of almost universal for a lot of the bigger social media sites, which we'll be getting into. But that's one way. 2, searching up the term voice actor casting calls in your search bar or searching up the equivalent hashtag voice actor casting call or voice acting audition, as well as anything that falls under the tree. So essentially just searching up for hashtags in relation to casting calls specifically for voice acting is a way that you can be able to find these auditions. Outside of just that hashtag, you can also just put hashtag casting call. I've used that and I found some voice actor related auditions on there. But essentially anything that just falls under the tree. So just directly searching for it would also be a recommendation. And 3, following and turning on notifications of profiles that are purely dedicated to reposting casting calls, such as VA casting retweet or unpaid retweet. I put the @ for these Twitter profiles. I think they are also on Bluesky, if I'm not mistaken, but primarily on Twitter. Turning on the notifications and following these profiles is a good way to be kept in the loop of what is being uploaded on the platform, essentially. Now, these profiles don't obviously repost everything, like all casting calls, either because of the fact that they have a specific formula of what they would want to repost on their profile, or, the bigger reason, they can't just get to them all. There's a lot of auditions that get put out on Twitter, so they can't really get to every single one of them. But they do repost some good stuff. I've had post notifications on for them ever since I started. And you'll just get a notification saying that they post something, and most likely the post is a repost of the casting call itself. Okay, yeah, so we can move on. Let's see. Batman. All right. So, TikTok and Instagram. I merged these two together for one kind of slide because both of these sites are pretty much recommended to treat the same way as Twitter. A smaller difference is that both of these sites don't have prominent profiles that repost opportunities. So you either have to find them naturally on your FYP or search for them. So the same thing with going back to the Twitter one. These two, I'd say, these two, if you see my mouse, 1 and 2, kind of the same way they should be treating Twitter or TikTok, my bad, and Instagram. Just curating your FIP by interacting with voice acting content on these platforms, and then literally just searching them up. Just hashtag voice actors or hashtag voice actor casting call or casting calls, and you can pretty much find them. Sometimes you can find exclusive opportunities on the platform. An example of this would be the official Assassin's Creed dubbing challenge hosted on TikTok, where the winner had a chance to voice in an upcoming game of theirs. And I linked a kind of an example of this because I was shortlisted for this audition on the platform where they posted me on their site or posted me on their page. And it was a really cool thing. And it was only an opportunity that you could do through TikTok, primarily finding it on TikTok. And I found that pretty much casually through curating my FYP to give me more voice acting content on it. Once again, either just by liking voice acting posts, retweeting stuff, following accounts that are voice acting related. Similarly on Instagram as well. Just curating your FYP so that, you know, the system or algorithm is used to just giving you voice acting related content. The fastest way that I've seen an algorithm be pushed out, specifically when it comes to Twitter, and I believe these other social medias as well, is by copying and sharing a link to the video. Now, you don't need to send it to anybody, but sharing it through the share button, copying the link, I think that's the best way to approach the algorithm stuff. I've noticed that I've literally shared like one Dragon Ball thing on Twitter specifically, and now my entire feed is just Dragon Ball, which I don't mind at all. But yeah, that's kind of how I would put these two together. Not really that much further information about these two platforms when it comes to Audition specifically. But yeah, curating your FYP and just searching them on the platform itself. But you can find opportunities on both TikTok and Instagram. All right, now for a little bit of an uncommon, underrated social media site that also has audition opportunities, Reddit. So Reddit is a very underrated social media site that also has a lot of audition opportunities on the platform. There are some dedicated Reddit threads that provide a good amount of posts which are paid and unpaid voiceover opportunities. Now, some Reddit threads that I've put it here is r/voicework, which is the prominent one, r/voice acting, and r/voiceover. For auditions particularly, I found most of them through r/voicework. Or just searching up voice work as the Reddit thread in Reddit if you know how to use Reddit. And that's kind of where I found a good amount of auditions through the platform of Reddit. And now since we're kind of getting in the territory of, you know, these underrated social media sites, do be careful when you are auditioning for, you know, kind of these almost not hidden stuff, but less publicized auditions and whatnot. That you're reading everything, you're making sure that, you know, it's an audition that you want to audition for, not just blindly auditioning for everything that you're seeing either on this platform or the next platform, you know. But that would be something that I'll put out. Reddit's kind of like, once again, simple. You can also search up voice acting related opportunities on the platform as well. through just putting, voice actor casting call club, or not casting call club, voice actor casting call in the search bar and searching for them directly. Yeah, we will be moving on. LinkedIn. LinkedIn is also a very underrated platform to find auditions. Usually the auditions posted on LinkedIn are more corporate, commercials, promo, e-learning, etc. Similarly, for finding auditions, you'd have to either find them naturally on your FYP or search for them. But there is a feature on the platform that's exclusive to the platform itself called groups, where you can join to access specific posts in regards to what the group is about. And a good group to join, from what I've seen so far, is voiceover jobs and opportunities. So if you search that on LinkedIn, you'd be able to find it. So with LinkedIn specifically, I know a lot of people are regularly like turned off from using the platform because it is more focused on other kind of means when it comes to job searching and job. It is a lot more professional coded, right? So they would kind of ask you for, job information and all these other things. And it's a little bit more of an intimidating platform in comparison to other social media platforms to use. But there are auditions that I have found that I have auditioned for throughout varying points in my voiceover journey that have helped me a lot, I'd say. Just in terms of finding stuff that I wouldn't naturally find on any other social media platform for free. So like commercials and promos and narration stuff primarily and e-learning. I feel like that's a dope source, obviously, if you want to use it. But yeah, that's kind of LinkedIn. No, I know I'm not really going that much in depth when it comes to some of these social media sites, but a lot of them are just more like Dodoy kind of things. Like, yeah, search up the voice actor casting calls on it and, search up these things, query your FYP. So like things that are more like a common thing. But with talking about these social medias in particular, it's just kind of more of like giving you the information like, hey, there are more casting call opportunities outside of just Twitter, so kind of giving you that information to let you be aware that there are auditions that you can find on sites like TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Reddit, Bluesky, and just different social media platforms, I'd say. So we have now ACX. ACX, to put it simply, is a online marketplace owned by Amazon that connects authors with narrators to create and publish audiobooks. So all in all, it is a audiobook audition site, essentially. It also kind of works because narrators are also on the, or people that need narrators, like authors, are on the site posting their auditions, essentially, to find more people to narrate their books. You can find audiobook projects and directly audition for them through the platform itself. Given that these are audiobook projects, keep in mind that the workload is really heavy. When I mean the workload is really heavy, some of the averages when it comes to doing audiobooks is about like 20,000 to 30,000 to 50,000 words that you are recording in the booth. And doing audiobooks, the style of recording for them is very, very technical. So I recommend ACX for those that just like really want to get into audiobooks and just really want to have a public source of auditioning for them. And just kind of want to get into that sector of VO as well as other things, just have a real passion for it. Because it takes a real passion for it to get through that workload, because once again, it is really heavy. The pay scale is also different to that of other projects. I know for ACX, they charge a different pay scale where you can go by per milestone, I think, but primarily it is per finished hour. So if you're in the booth for 5 hours and your rate is like $200 per hour, you're getting paid off of that hourly statistic. I'm not sure if there's minimums, but it is just different in terms of other projects like character auditions that you would just normally be auditioning for when you're starting out. And the project itself can take a lot of time to complete. I've done some audiobooks in the past. They have taken a while, I'd say, to finish up. But the deadlines for some can range from like 2 weeks, a month. I've seen some that were like put out a deadline of like 2 months, 3 months. So it varies in terms of that. But it kind of goes back to my initial point that the workload of doing these audiobooks is really heavy. So keeping that in mind. But before auditioning for anything, please read what exactly the job will require of you to see if you're up to the task. Once again, this goes back to my initial point. Don't just blindly audition for stuff. Please don't blindly audition for stuff. Read the description of what these auditions are asking of you, are just asking for you to do, the qualifications of what they're asking you to do, and seeing if you're a good fit for that and you are purely just comfortable with that for ACX and for audiobooks specifically, because it's a lot of work. And I really want to emphasize that fact because people don't know it's a lot of work until they know it's a lot of work, if you get what I mean. But I provided the link for ACX on the Google presentation, or you can just literally Google up ACX and you can find the platform on there. But with that said, we'll be moving on to talent rosters. What are talent rosters? Talent rosters are usually a private list made by either a casting director or studio that contains carefully selected talent. They use the roster to keep track of the talent that they feel can properly qualify to meet the standards of what their projects require. The talent on these rosters are usually sent private auditions, as well as having some basic information like their email, demos, and resume contained within the roster for the people to just kind of keep track of, essentially. On occasions, there are public submission links where talent interested in joining the roster and meet the qualifications in joining a particular roster can submit for, just in terms of consideration. Who is accepted is up to the discretion of the team or the person behind the creation of the roster itself. And I went ahead and posted a link to some of the public rosters that are up there in terms of submission. And if you are in the Discord, you are able to go into the general resources, scrolling all the way up to the top, and you can find the same link that we're using in here for the rosters and databases there as well. But it is important, and I really want to stress this thing. Do not also blindly submit to talent rosters either. If you do not meet the qualifications in joining a particular roster, do not submit for it. Please do not submit for it. The reason why these qualifications are set in place when it comes to these rosters is not a point of trying to eliminate. It's an attack on you specifically, right? It's not. It is because some of these projects and some of these studios and a lot of these clients that these studios are working for need certain requirements, like equipment requirements, that they are just more commonly known to be working with. In terms of experience requirements, to know that you at least have enough, I'm not sure if the term is gumption, but I'd say just overall experience in the space and world of voice acting. Demo requirements, actually being able to see what you are capable of through a demo or sample reel. So once again, if you do not meet the qualifications in joining a particular roster, do not submit for it until you meet the qualifications in joining. So that's what I would put heavy emphasis on before looking at the public rosters link, because they do list some of the requirements that some of these talent rosters want of you. And don't make the same mistake I did, because when I was a starting actor, especially when I was a beginner, I was very ambitious, and I was just like, oh, I'm going to just submit to all these rosters and stuff. They're going to like my stuff. And I would never get back to, and it could be pretty dangerous because some of these rosters are very strict. I've known folks that have been, not taken as seriously because they are submitting blindly to these talent rosters with barely any information and barely any of the resources that they requested of them, and they just are made to be looked silly, right? And I don't want that for anybody. So once again, I put very heavy emphasis on that. All right. So this is a source that I'm kind of sharing through goodwill, I'd say. StoryCo talent roster. StoryCo is a studio that I have worked for the past, I'd say, 5 to 6 months. You're not getting a 6-7 meme out of me. 5 to 6 months, I'd say. And they have been pretty cool. If you don't know what StoryCo is, it is a studio that has a public submission forum to be considered to join their talent roster. That's not what the studio is, but the studio primarily works on official Webtoon dubs that get uploaded onto the Webtoon app. All the opportunities they have are paid work, and in my own experience, are really fun to work on. So all the work that they do are the Webtoon dubs that you see getting uploaded onto the Webtoon platform, specifically for the app. I kind of give this submission link to you guys because I don't want to gatekeep this. It could be very easy to gatekeep because the roster is not that big in terms of stuff. But it is a good way to be able to receive kind of opportunities here and there. That if you have the equipment specs for, and you have, just kind of the basic stuff that they ask of you, you can submit to, and hopefully get some cool auditions that, are uploaded on there. But that is something I'll recommend. But yeah, so I'd say so. Yeah, so it is a roster that kind of is or has been curated over a period of time. StoryCo, it kind of used to be like a casting call club almost in terms of stuff, but they kind of reformed to just kind of being more studio centered, I'd say. But it's a good little way. I put the submission link for it in the presentation, which, once again, you can just be able to click on once I upload the presentation into the general resources. But from that, moving on, we have agents. Having agency representation for voiceover can allow you to access opportunities and auditions that would be a lot harder to access without them. Although you don't need to have an agent, having a good agent and having good agency representation can help you a ton. I'll preface this. There's so much nuance to this conversation that I would highly suggest reading this article to answer more in-depth questions that you might have about this topic. Given that this video and this presentation is just more for audition opportunity specifics and kind of more geared for beginners, I'd say, or people just kind of starting out, getting their footing. Agents is kind of more of a not high-class convo, but a very nuanced convo that I would recommend reading into this article posted by the VAC, the Voice Acting Discord Club, or Voice Acting Club, that is known as being a Discord server, in regards to voiceover agents. And they go very in-depth into the conversation of agents and answering a lot of the common questions and more intense questions when it comes to agents. When are you ready for an agent? And all, once again, the nuance to that conversation. So it's not something that I can go in depth to or feel comfortable enough to go in depth to within this space alone. I do have an agent personally. I have my own history when it comes to agents, good history. But once again, I feel like that these folks, the VAC, they spent a lot of time to curate the information on these articles, and I would just highly recommend going to them. And if you're on YouTube watching this and you kind of want this link, just please look up Voice Acting Club on Google. You can find all their articles in relation to voice acting overall, and then search for agents, and then you can be able to find this specific article as well. So moving on, pay to plays. What are pay to plays? Well, pay to plays such as sites like Voices, Backstage, which was a platform that we've talked about previously in our previous interview, or Voice 123, are sites that have private listings of auditions that require you to pay a subscription in order to access them. Buying into sites like these are risky if you are just starting out or whatever that may be, because there isn't any guarantee that you'll book an audition or even book enough auditions to make you the money back you paid for the subscription itself. But even then, they still exist for a reason, as there are people that have had their own successes with using sites like these, and there are some clients out there that upload their projects sometimes exclusively on these sites and overall platforms. To kind of give you guys an experience with my history with pay-to-plays, I only bought into one pay-to-play within my career, and that was Voices. I booked, like, out of a lot of the auditions that are on there, I booked one, luckily enough. I can't say what it was because it's still pending to be out, but I booked one. It was a pretty cool project. But I booked one audition on the platform that essentially did pay for the subscription itself, which that was great, you know what I'm saying? But it's not a common thing that happens. It is just super freaking competitive, man. And because there's, once again, more nuance to this conversation, I would suggest reading this article by the VAC for more information through this link right here, which you can find, once again, through clicking the link or just looking up Voice Acting Club on Google, and then finding the articles there. But to go more in depth about it, pay-to-plays are often more recommended for people that have an established background in voiceover and having the structure of their business put into place before buying into. Like I said, these sites are highly competitive, and a lot more competitive than your average public auditions, as the majority of the people that pay for the site are working professionals in the industry with multiple years or even decades under their belt in terms of experience. Some of these sites have also, I can't bring this up, or I can't bring up pay-to-plays without talking about this. Some of these sites have also been reported to be a tad bit shady. So please do your research and ask for opinions before considering buying into any of them. Kind of this overall lesson that I've been putting in here. Also, don't buy into pay-to-plays blindly. I know that, and I've had this point in my career as well, and I continue to have the point in my career where I'm like, man, I just want to be able to access these high-level auditions as much as I possibly can. I really want to get into that. And I understand the feeling, and it's just, don't get me wrong, but paying money for a pay-to-play or for a platform can be a lot of money in terms of like $500, $200. Like, maybe that's not a lot of money to most folks, but it's a lot of money to me, and it's a lot of money to spend on something that if you're not completely sure of in terms of having that confidence that you could be able to book through objective means, like having an established background in voiceover, having your setup, having your website, having experience already with voice acting, I would say, once again, take a step back, do a little bit of your research, ask for opinions of other folks that have also bought into the platform or just know what the pay-to-plays are before considering buying into them. And even though this presentation, once again, is a one-on-one more for beginners, I do want to bring up pay-to-plays, although I don't really recommend it for beginners, primarily because it is something that you'll bump into in terms of the conversation, talking about where to find voiceover auditions. And what I don't want for you guys is to stumble onto a pay-to-play, see all the cool stuff, buy into it in $500, and then, potentially waste your money for the year. You know what I'm saying? Where that money could have been spent on something more definitive, like upgrading your equipment or buying into a workshop or something that is more guaranteed to help you out within the current position that you are in for your career. That's why I put a highlight into it. Also, if you kind of are already in the established background of voiceover and you already kind of have that, and you do your research, you look at the pay to plays, you're confident, you got your stuff already, I would only buy into pay to plays on Black Friday. And I'm really serious when it comes to this. Buying a pay to plays on Black Friday is probably the cheapest way that you can be able to buy pay to plays. I know that a lot of the pay to plays do like very heavy discounts comparatively to their regular subscription price. It's still a heavy price once again to be able to buy into, but it's a lot and more significantly cheaper. But that is the conversation of pay to plays for the time being. Alrighty. Cold calling. Cold calling is the action of contacting potential clients who have not expressed prior interest in your services, and upon contacting, introducing your services to them and explaining why you may be of value to them. An example of this, kind of to, de-nerdify it, essentially, is, let's say I'm on, like, oh no, I use an example of this in the next one. So mine is the example. This method leans a lot more onto the business side of voiceover, so it's highly recommended to have a firmer understanding of that side, such as a structured business with voiceover already, before fully jumping into this kind of method. And cold calling, I would also kind of put that stamp on it before really get into it, because I have seen folks, once again, like myself, that have been really excited about trying to find audition opportunities and reaching out to all these clients when they're first starting off and not really having a lot to even showcase to them. You know what I'm saying? So the conversation, once again, it's nuanced, it's varied, it's really dependent on your confidence for cold calling and where you are cold calling and who are you exactly reaching out to. But overall, an example of the process of cold calling would be like finding a video of a YouTube narration on YouTube, finding out the company who is behind producing it, finding their point of contact email, once again, email usually, and sending them an email asking if they would ever need more voice actors for the narrations, providing your demo as well as any necessary information, and ensuring the message is worded in a presentable and non-robotic type of way. I will be doing more presentations, and talking about cold calling is one of the presentations that I really want to get into because it is a nuanced conversation. But over the point of my own career, cold calling has helped me a lot, especially during kind of the middle stages of where I was in my career. So I would definitely get more into that in another day. But cold calling overall, would I recommend it for beginners? It just depends, right? Like if you are reaching out to like a game dev, right? And you're just like really interested in like, sending in your stuff in. If you have like materials, you have your website and you have these other stuff, I could say that there's a world where you can reach out to them, but it's just, once again, a lot of nuance to this conversation. I just want to let you guys know that this is something that exists, right? Kind of breaking it down a little bit more in a overarching way, and then hopefully going into it more in depthly at a later time. But conclusion. Okay, so we are done essentially. Alrighty. Well, firstly, thank you guys for watching on YouTube. I am going to get into the subsection of this where I'm going to be going into questions, either anything that contains or we were talking about in the presentation, or anything that we were talking about that you just want more clarification on. So feel free to put your questions in the side chat. I will be closing the presentation. Actually, I'll leave it open just in case. But yeah. So given that it's taking a little bit of time, let's see. How would you define being established / experienced voice actor? Okay. This is a good point and topic because some of these auditions or some of these audition sources, I have kind of put that label on it, kind of, being more established in that sense. What I would say is being in the position in your career where, you have the tools on your tool belt, right? The way that I metaphorically put this is that when you start voice acting, you're given a tool belt, right? But it doesn't have any tools on it, right? So you just have the belt. You know what I'm saying? So if you're going to these jobs and you're going to the opportunities and you're using these sources and you just have the belt, you don't really have a lot to showcase, right? There are different tools that you can add to your tool belt to make this tool belt overall more established of, kind of it being a representation of your business and overall your positioning as a voice actor. Things like having demos, right? That represent your ability in a good, solid way. That is a tool that you add to your tool belt. Having a resume, that is a tool that you add to your tool belt. Having previous experience, right? Auditioning for these projects that are more commonly found, booking these projects, working on these projects, building up the experience, that is a part of your tool belt, right? Having a website, having a definitive way where folks can find all the information about you and your services, that is a part of your tool belt, right? So kind of working to add tools to your tool belt until you're at a confident point where you can compare yourself to folks that are like kind of semi-actively working in this space. You have that website, you have the demos, you have the resume, you kind of meet the overall basic qualifications of like some of these talent rosters that you are submitting to. I feel like that at that point, Google can be like, okay, yeah, I have the experience, I have the work. Now I can kind of dive into more of these extensive avenues of voiceover, I would say. Hopefully that makes sense. How I define established aspects of being a voice actor is also through comparison. Not comparing like, oh, just, bringing down whatever. Comparison and just more of like looking at other folks' business, right? Looking what they have in terms of like information and resources that they provide that you don't yet, and working to eventually get those things. When I was starting off voiceover, especially very young, I was looking at some of the voice actors, not like the big dogs, but some people that are like kind of more like reachable, I'd say. And they have their websites posted. I will look at like literally hundreds of websites and just kind of see like what do people have in terms of the representation of their voiceover business. Okay, they have demos, they have resumes, they have experience, right? They have work in this space to varying degrees, but just the work overall. They have tools in the tool belt. So essentially just working to get more tools in your tool belt. And as you progress in this space, those tools will get leveled up and even stronger. Because you're, putting work to improve upon your tools and making sure that your tools work the right way. So that's kind of how I would be able to define it personally in terms of being a quote unquote established or experienced voice actor. Hopefully that answers your question. Let's see. Are there any other skills voice actors should have? Maybe like writing and editing or such? Any skill that you develop either just naturally or through general interest in looking into other these things can only help you, right? I wouldn't say it's needed, but I've known actors that, dive into other subsections like writing or editing or primarily audio engineering, dive into that world, figure out that complex, nuanced conversation and process, and it only helps you, But would just say that overall, that would be the main point that I would have is that I don't think that it's like a gleaming necessity. But the more that, once again, you kind of add to your tool belt, the more tools you have, and it could only help, right? I wouldn't say it's necessary. Me, myself, I'm not really much of like an audio engineer. I'm just kind of, once again, a voice actor. I do have basic understandings that is required of me for editing my audio and sending in my audio and making sure my audio is good. I have other interests as well that combine into voiceover that help on occasion, like being able to put together a good presentation if the presentation was good, I hope. But yeah, I feel like that, once again, other skills, it's cool. It's not much of a necessity, I'd say. But if you do have them or you work to have them, it can be cool, I'd say. What level of auditions do pay to play get you? Same level as casting call, studio level, indie game, or completely different league? From my experience, from what I've seen on these pay to plays, it varies, but definitely in the majority, I'd say it's more like the studio level auditions. I've seen a lot more like commercial auditions for commercials or narrative stuff that are posted on these pay to plays. But once again, given that it's a more higher level auditions, because it's, you know, it has like a lot more budget, and it has like a lot more you know, focus in terms of teams and stuff, it makes it more competitive. So I'd say that that's kind of the level of stuff, but it's nuanced, I'd say. I can't exactly say like what specific auditions are on there, because I don't want to like make you guys so excited that all of you guys buy into a pay to play right now. I really don't want to do that. But yeah, I would say that it's like kind of like studio level. Some can range to like indie stuff, but more like high level indie stuff is where they have like more of the budgeting, you know, to be able to give out. Question. I have seen some studios or businesses have a contact me section. Do you reach out through that, even if they don't give you the option to send all your info? Or do you send an original email with all your stuff included? So this kind of reels into cold calling. So some studios and some businesses have a contact me section. You're right. But I would really highly suggest trying to get an understanding of why that contact me section is placed there. Because I also know that for a lot of these sites, they have like specific guidelines a little bit for what you can contact them about. With some studios having that contact me section and being like, oh, voice actor submissions here, right? Or put all your voice acting stuff here, right? So if they don't have that necessarily, I would say looking more in depth into just trying to see if there is a more definitive way to contact them through another mean. Because what you don't want to stumble upon is, you know, contacting them through a medium that they aren't wanting you to contact them for, like giving them an inquiry through their contacting, and that email or wherever you're contacting from is not purposed for that. So being careful, being a little bit more nonchalant, I'd say, when it comes to breaking down like how to be able to reach out to some studios or businesses, finding that point of contact. And some of the times I've literally like asked, like I would send out an email, not worded in like a, you know, a heavy voice actor way, like sending them all my demos and stuff, like literally just like a general inquiry, saying that, hey, I'm interested in, you know, hopefully if you guys have a database or a roster being added potentially to you and your team, how does that work? Like, what is your qualification for that? Does a roster do you even have a talent roster, right? So I think those questions are free to ask if they allow you to, right? If they are for kind of more general inquiries, you can send a professional general inquiry to them and just literally ask, like, hey, is this a good point of contact to send in my stuff? Yes, no, maybe so. And you guys see the nuance in there. Right. Will age be a factor in trying to gain voiceover work? Yes. I would say yes. A lot of people, like, I started very young, like 16. I started at 12, but when actually getting into voiceover stuff, I started like around 16, 17. There are projects that are out there in terms of auditions that only kind of want people that are above 18 plus. And it's for many different reasons, right? A lot of the times it's just for the project's own protections, as a lot of the payment that comes with getting paid and compensated for projects include stuff like PayPal or other things that they kind of want to make sure that they just have people that are of age, so the process is just easier. Some people just kind of don't want to work with people that are underage, which is fine. It's up to the own discretion of these project owners. But I have had auditions and opportunities that I have done and built up a resume when I was 16, 17 with just auditioning for projects that are allowant of people that are underage, essentially. So it is a factor, but it's not a killer. Hopefully that makes sense. When do you think is a good point in your career to start investing into even more expensive equipment? Investing upward, you say. Okay, so this is a very nuanced conversation. I know I've been using that word, but I've been using the word nuanced a lot, but it's because overall, when it comes to a lot of these points, it is a very nuanced conversation. You'll get a varying amount of answers from folks, but from my own personal perspective, in terms of just my own business, investing into anything, right, requires a different understanding of kind of what you're investing for, right? What I would recommend for anybody, and it's never recommended for anybody, to blindly invest into everything. When you're investing into other things outside of voiceover, you're always given the advice to look in depthly into what you're investing for. Will it actually be a good investment for you? What are you investing for? Like things about that and more understanding that nuance before even pulling your wallet out, right? Equipment, I'd say, even in my own career, where I was very, like putting my wallet down when it comes to buying more expensive equipment, upgrading your equipment is something that you're just eventually going to do, right? But the focus on voiceover, I'd say, is more lenient to other things like improving your acting ability and all these things. But getting higher levels of equipment is something that you should do, right? My recommendation on when to start investing into more expensive equipment, or more like equipment that would just help you, not just overall expensive equipment, is kind of, I'd say, it'd be different things. Like for me, I only use the money that I made from voiceover to invest back into voice acting. I did that a lot when I was starting out. So I kind of used the money that I made through the gigs that I was doing off of my normal setup that I had, with just interface, microphone, and whatnot, and then just using that money to reinvest into voice acting. And that was just a lot more of a safer way for me to be able to get the equipment that I have now. And the equipment that I have now isn't mine; it's my roommates, which I'm really appreciative of. Them allowing me to use in these environments and spaces. So it has definitely helped me a lot. But I would kind of point you in the direction of looking at the voice acting channel. And if you're on the YouTube still, we do have different categories where we jump into different topics in text channel. Go to equipment help. And there are a lot of videos, especially by Joe Zija, that talk about this topic a lot more extensively, I'd say, and can provide a lot more of a clearer understanding of that. But investing in expensive equipment, I'd say kind of when you're financially ready, right? If you have the finances to be able to invest into equipment that just will better help you, like you've done the research, it would help you out. That's kind of where I would say investing into that would work a lot more commonly. Let's see. What's your thoughts on networking with other voice actors to get auditions and gigs? Well, here's the thing. Voice actors, like, don't really have a lot of access to auditions and gigs, right? And purely networking with the idea of just getting auditions and gigs through other voice actors through other means is not the right approach I would take to networking. I would say you can literally just ask, right? If you're in a conversation or either in the Discord server talking about auditions and where people find them, just asking these questions, right? Just genuinely being like, hey, I'm just trying to find more auditions and opportunities. Where do you audition, right? I feel like that's just a genuine question that you can ask, and just kind of bring that up in environments where it's meant to be, you know? Let's see. Would you separate your online persona versus your IRL name and information from things like these? And when would be a good time to actually separate them and needed? So yeah, I mean, I've had, because I used to be a content creator, I had a separate social media pages for content, and I had a separate social media page for voice acting. I eventually kind of worked my own self towards merging the two together, primarily because voice acting is something that I primarily wanted to do, and that's why. But in terms of your question, I feel like that just depends on where your mentality is. If you want to do voice acting and voice acting is the primary thing you want to do, I would say, you know, and if your online persona is not really that like valuable to you in that way, like you do feel comfortable with merging the two, I'd say yeah, you can merge the two. Using your IRL name and information is kind of a common thread of stuff. I know people that are kind of uncomfortable with using their real name for their voice acting business, so that's why stage names exist. Curating a stage name that is a first and last name, I'd say it's a, it's a pretty good way to kind of meet the middle, to still kind of put your business with voiceover in a professional manner, but not having to insert the information that you're uncomfortable with inserting, like your real name, into it. But that's what I would kind of suggest primarily. Let's see. Is there any more questions? Okay, there's more. All right. Okay, how did you connect and network with new people in the voice acting industry? Well, in terms of like the idea of networking, this is something that we previously tapped on in our interview. I just kind of went throughout it by making the attempt to form genuine friendships in this space. You know what I'm saying? Like going into discords like these and just talking, just having conversations with people, asking questions, and just kind of working together with friends and people that I gotten to know to climb that ladder. You know what I'm saying? This is not a career that I feel like that you can just do on your own and purely on your own. You will eventually hit that stage where you need friends, you need other people to kind of, give you that insight and help. Other forms of ways that I've asked or try to adhere or get information, I used to go to cons, like conventions. And I would ask some voice actor guests in person. I'm like, hey, I have this specific question in relation to voice acting that I would love to see if you have some insight on. I remember going up to some voice actors at a con and asking them what their advice would be when it comes to going into studio for the first time. Because that was the first time I had an opportunity where it was the first time that I had to go in studio. So I had a convention coming up and I literally just asked these, voice actors like, hey, what would be your insight when it comes to going into studio? And I've asked other folks, I'm like, yeah, what is your like audition technique? Like, how do you approach auditions? And kind of just asking for help, I'd say would be a good point away in terms of just connecting with more people. And overall, I know like a lot of people put this focus on networking, that they have to be, you have to be assertive. You always got to do this. I've been a nonchalant networker for so long. I've kind of just had the idea of just introducing myself, my first and last, them just knowing who I am and what I do, and just having people aware of my existence, was enough for me. And I did that over so long in my career where, when I started to announce stuff on social media platforms, other folks that I would meet either at conventions, but voice actors that I've looked up to for a very long time, or through other sources, knowing me naturally through just meeting them, introducing myself, talking about what I do and asking them questions. And then to later on, some of them I'm not friends with, you know what I'm saying? So kind of taking a nonchalant approach, I'd say would be good. How can a voice actor tell if a voice director is looking for new talent for an upcoming project? Usually they would publicly post it. You know what I'm saying? Like majority of the times they'll publicly post it if they are looking. I know there's a lot of voice directors, and especially when I was doing casting, right? I never and this is just for me, right? It varies through a lot of different people. That's why I'm like, if you ever do go the cold calling route, ask first before you give first, I would say. Especially if you're starting out the cold calling. Ask if, you can be able to send your stuff before you're sending your stuff, right? Personalize the communication that you're putting into your emails and stuff. When I used to do casting, I used to be kind of like semi-annoyed when folks would just reach out to me, asking if I am doing casting calls and stuff. And the reason why I would be annoyed is not because of the cold call attempt, but because a lot of the way that these cold calls were written were in a very unpersonalized way and manner. Like, I could tell that they're sending an exact copy and pasted formatted email to 60 more people. And I've even had that recently towards where I don't even do casting anymore. And people still reach out to me in email asking if I do casting stuff. So I'm like taking the time to like research into these things and genuinely see like, okay, are they actively casting? Are they still looking at stuff? Like, do they have their point of contact available publicly? And if they do they like, or would they give permission to ask general inquiries? So that's kind of something that you can be able to put out. Is it acceptable to make mistakes during voiceover sessions, regardless of your experience level in voice acting? Hell yeah. I mean, heck yeah, brother. Like, I've like made countless mistakes, like either flubbed up a line, or read a line wrong or like burped in the middle of a session. So I'm like, there are times, yeah, that you make mistakes. I mean, the environment that's curated for sessions and workouts, or really any environments that involve doing the line of work, we're not perfect, right? I've seen actors of varying levels of experience make mistakes, and it's common. So as long as you know how to pick yourself back up and, just try your best to give it your all, you should be good. Are you aware of any mentors/mentee programs for voice acting in the Dallas area? Not really. I do, once again, I think that coaching is more of a definitive way to find like mentorship, I say. And that conversation can kind of be more talked about in the workshop and coaching recs category that we have, or channel that we have in the server. Yeah. Are most directors flexible with an actor's schedule? For example, if a voice actor has another session or a personal commitment that conflicts with a scheduled recording, is professional to request a different recording? Yes, you can do that. So you can reschedule a session. Like if you have something that comes up, you can reschedule. Some of the times for some recording environments, there is a certain allocation of time that that project needs to be recorded for. So they might not have as much time to be able to give you for rescheduling, but you can definitely like reschedule if you have something come up. And like I'd say probably 80% of the time you can probably get another date where you can just hop into the session. Let's see. I don't know if it asked, but in your experience, what's something you notice in newer voice actors that tell you they might need a bit more practice before taking on bigger projects? I would say it's two things. I would say it's the construction of their business, right? What their tool, what their tool belt is, like how their tool belt looks, going back to that metaphor, right? How their website looks. Does it look neat, right? Does it look, professional? And professional in the way, does it look organized, right? What information do they have on there? Are their demo reels updated to some extent, right? How does their demo reel sound, right? That was something that I kind of had in my mind, not speaking from a voice actor perspective, but from speaking of a casting director specific, when I used to do that. Is there information accessible? Just overall, I feel like the construction of their business, I took that into account. And the sidebar to that would be the acting, right? And acting is something that you're going to constantly be improving on over a period of time. But having a good grip on the idea of just acting, right? And acting in the booth, having good chops, right? And having a good history with just overall experience where the actor is getting work, right? Due to their successes and understanding acting or their businesses. I feel like that is an overall good assumption of where an actor may be when it comes to their point of career, right? But a lot of it just varies down to where, like, if you're a voice actor, are you getting work? Like, are you booking? When you're auditioning, like, are you relatively booking to some extent, right? And we talked about the scale of actually booking auditions in the previous interview, to where it's like some of the times it could be 1 out of 50, 1 out of 100. But there is still some sense of consistency that there, somewhat should be there, I'd say, when it comes to if you're auditioning constantly for opportunities and you're not getting anything. Maybe that's kind of an indication that you have to go back to the lab, improve the tool belt a little bit, and then revisit that later on, right? But that is kind of what I would say. How accepting are DIY, I'm stupid. How accepting are DIY demos long term? This demo conversation, once again, it's a very nuanced one, I'd say. DIY demos depends, right? In my personal experience, I've seen folks of varying levels in the industry have a DIY demo, but it's primarily because they have a firm understanding of all the aspects that they do themselves when it comes to the demo production, in terms of experience. Like if they do the audio engineering themselves, they have years of experience audio engineering, so they know how to be able to produce that. If they're writing the demo themselves, they have experience listening to demos, listening to the construction of writing for demos, and being able to apply that to their own demo reel. So DIY demos is kind of more, once again, of kind of a nuanced thing. I would look at the demo reel help channel, kind of to look at more, in terms of more information. How would you recommend to beginning actors to have fan dubs in their resume? Should they have two separate, one for total projects, an experience, another one for showcase projects or whatever? I don't recommend having fan dubs in your resume, period. I feel as though that when it comes to fan dub or, just fan dubs projects, not fan related, because there are fan related projects that still have an essence of being like original to some extent, kind of like Danganronpa fan games that I've seen people put on their resume. But fan dubs are different. I can't really get into the nuance of that topic, but I just can say not to put it in your resume. So yes, and should they have two separate? Not two separate. I just, once again, wouldn't advise putting fan dubs in your resume overall. Question by the homie. Yes, how would you go about a casting call that is labeled as if it's still open, that has an overdue deadline in the description? Would you send an inquiry for confirmation or just ignore and move on? Honestly, if the casting call itself speaks to you, like in terms of it, I would say, you could reach out for an inquiry, to see if they're still doing, the casting call, if it's still open. I've had times towards where I've seen the casting call hit its deadline, and similarly, as you put it, it's still labeled still open, especially when you see it on Casting Call Club. So sending a little bit of an inquiry, either through just the messages, just check if it's still open. Never could hurt. It never could hurt. How to deal with listening to your own voice when you have to check your auditions? It's a little weird thing. I don't think I've had a very big point where like listening to my own voice was hard to hear. I think that's only really happened when I listened to like my past auditions personally. But listening to your own voice, dang, that's a good question. I would say a lot of it, when it comes to just kind of overall, is building the confidence that your own voice in itself is unique regularly, right? Everybody's voice in here or regularly, if you're watching the YouTube, you have a unique voice, right? And I think that aspect alone is one of the unique, or one of the most unique things that you can bring to the table when it comes to overall this career. Building up the confidence to be able to listen to your own voice is hard, right? But I would just overall kind of it's difficult because I never really personally had to bump into that problem, which is a known privilege of mine. But I would just kind of just overall say maybe I don't know. I'm gonna be real. Like there's some questions. I'm gonna be real. I'm not Gandhi, so there's not a lot I can be able to answer. But when it comes to that one, it's gonna be one that I don't think I can. I'm gonna be real. But to point you in a good direction to kind of like go through that. I would kind of maybe ask other people in here if other people can help me out when it comes to answering that. Because once again, I haven't dealt with that problem before. So I don't want to kind of give you like, some ragtag advice for something that I haven't had, my own problem with dealing with. But if anybody here has, and they have worked to be able to build the confidence up with their own voice, please give Pepper some input, guys. I'm sorry, I can't. Alrighty. Coming from the coaching direction, do you know anyone personally that does coaching 101 in the Dallas area? Not anyone personally, I'd say. And like I said, once again, I would refer to the coaching help. A lot of the coaches that I've had over the period of time have been remote, I'd say. Haven't really seen a lot of it, at least when it comes to Dallas, of stuff being in person. I do know there's in-person classes, but when it comes like one-on-one coaching, I'm not really sure if that's there. Okay, let's see. Like, yeah, okay, your voice is your instrument, and even musicians have to listen to their replays, so be confident. Heck yeah. Thank you, Laura. Once again, I'm so sorry I couldn't answer that. Like, I got genuinely stuck because it's not something I've had to go through that process of dealing with. But hopefully other people in here can be able to provide more insight about that. Okay, last question. Is remote recording becoming the norm, or are we going back to studio? I'd say it's nuanced. I've been saying that word throughout this whole time, but I'm sorry, it is a nuanced thing. I can tell you to kind of give you more clarification that I'd say 70% of the work that I do for voiceover is still remote. And like 30% of the work that I do outside of that is going in studio. So when it comes to that, that's kind of what I would put out, that there are remote opportunities that are out there. Are remote opportunities dwindling? Unfortunately, yeah, it sucks. But because of how much scale of auditions are out there, I'd say that there is still a lot of remote opportunities audition-wise that is acceptable. So yeah. So for the purpose of not making this video super long, I am going to be ending it here, but I'm going to be answering any other questions in the voice acting VC. But thank you guys. Thank you guys for joining my little yap session talking about where to find audition opportunities. Once again, the kind of purpose of doing this is kind of just to give you guys this presentation, just to give you guys at least some information and sources and some resources that you guys may not have had before, or at least an understanding of before, just so I can be able to give it to you guys. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to either reach out to me, talk with me in any of these VCs. And if you're on the YouTube, thank you so much for watching, homie. I dap you up digitally. I want to definitely do more of these. There will be more of these that we do. And there's a lot more events that we're going to have going on. And I appreciate the love. And guys, we have support in the server. We reached 300 members and we're on the road for 400. I am really, really grateful to every single. Oh, we're at 400. Oh, we're at 400 members. Oh, that's so dope. Oh, thank you guys. Hell yeah. Yeah, 400 members in the Discord server, guys. So if you're watching the YouTube video and if you aren't already in the Voice Actor Haven, make sure to click the link in our bio, join right in. We're a safe space, hopefully, to be able to all collaboratively, even myself, practice, learn more, grow in the voice acting space and industry. And with that, we'll see you guys next time.